Hi, middle-aged gamers. Welcome back to another episode of your favorite gaming show. We are here with everybody, and it has been a while since we were away last week for various reasons. But we're not going to waste any time. There's a ton of gaming news going on, gaming sales, hardware sales, and lots of other sort of small tidbits. So we're going to get right into it today. We're going to start off with Antoine's story first, and then we'll go to Adam's and then mine's. So, Antoine, what is your first gaming story that people might have missed?
Okay, so very first I'm gonna start with my one-liners, so that's gonna go fast in interest of time. So for here in Canada, we're 11th. For you guys, it's the 12th. On the 13th Pacific time at 2 p.m., you have Sony State of Play. So very quick news, they announced that they're gonna do an E3-like show based on one game and one game only, Final Fantasy 16. So if you are very hyped about the game, and I know lots of people are, if I had a PS5, I would be too, but I don't. So yeah, tune in again, April 13th, 2 p.m. Pacific time. So tune in and see the Sony State of Play. Sure, it's gonna be fun.
How do you make a game, an E3 like event out of one game?
I don't know. They do game showcase, but here they specifically say this is not going to be a showcase. It's going to be an E3 type. So I guess a conference with lots of trailers and cinematics and things.
It's just like the same or different cinematics for the same game for like an hour.
Probably show different
Maybe
things.
some new reveals, a bit of gameplay, maybe some new stuff about. And if it's E3, they're gonna put 20 minutes introduction about the past games and how they made the music, and you can fluff these things out. It's fine.
Yeah, when they say E3 like presentation, I'm not thinking like E3 as a whole. I'm thinking it's like, when you go to E3 and they're like, here's the new blah 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 game, and then they do like a little segment on that. It's probably just more like the way they would have revealed it if it was at E3 is probably what they.
Oh, okay. And I mean, and so this Final Fantasy 16 is not going to come to PC and PlayStation at the same time.
Oh, it's
I think it's
PS5.
6 months again until PlayStation. But the reason that they said for that was because they said that this game only can work on the PS5, which obviously people are like, that's BS. There's no way it only runs on the PS5. But apparently the way it's designed, it makes really strong use of the PlayStation SSD to pull assets and things like that. So seeing as most PCs don't have that kind of SSD or don't have those kind of read-write speeds, I think that they are focusing primarily on the PS5, and then they're going to have to find workarounds for the PC release to make it more viable for other systems. So increasing load times or adding, maybe some load screens or things like that to compensate. Whereas on the PS5, it's supposed to be like entirely smooth because it's designed for that architecture or to make the most of it. So.
Also, it's because PlayStation or PS5 is widely criticized of having no games. You don't have any specific game to PS5 right now. Really, like the exclusive, I'm gonna get my PS5 Final Fantasy edition, like I had my PS4 Uncharted edition or something like this. They need a win. PS5 need a win, especially how Microsoft Xbox is steamrolling everything right now. They have no choice. At some point, they need to release stuff which is not PS4, PS5. It's just PS5. You want to play this game? Buy my PS5, and that's it. They just do need that at this point. I don't know what you guys think, but I think that's
Forspoken didn't perform very well.
So Adam's eye triggered as soon as the Xbox is steamrolling.
I mean, in any like in terms of sales, PlayStation is definitely still winning. But that's been for the longest time. PlayStation people have been saying Xbox has no games. Xbox has no games, and now Xbox people are turning around and saying PlayStation has no games. PlayStation has no games, and it's like, that's never been true for either case. I mean, for example, the this month the DLC for Horizon Forbidden West comes out. So I mean, it's not a full game; it's DLC, but I mean that comes out this month. Spider-Man's coming out later this year. Obviously, so it's not the only PlayStation 5 exclusive game coming out this year, but PlayStation,
Yes.
because was it Xbox has Redfall coming out very soon, and then they have Starfield later this year. So a lot of Xbox people have been saying like, "Oh, PlayStation, where's your new game? We have Redfall coming out," But it's always like whoever has a game coming out turns to the other one and says like, "Well, where are your games this month?" So
Yeah, but I'm not talking, console war here. I'm talking Microsoft as a whole, and I was thinking Xbox Game Pass really, because console players, so that's good, but PC wins it also, and PC is Microsoft. So,
yeah,
yeah.
I just looked it up as well. Like Adam is totally right. Like as of February 2023, there's like a difference in global monthly sales of how much is that? Like 10 million units between the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox.
yeah, it's a huge thing. But Microsoft's now pushing. What were they saying? Like for example, I don't remember what the exact number is, but PC Game Pass vastly out is significantly larger than the console version of of Game Pass. So they are definitely pushing more for PC, I think, or will be in the future, because it seems to be that's where they're making most of their sales right now.
Just imagine if the BattleNet, if they can buy Blizzard, if the BattleNet is included inside the Xbox Game Pass.
Well, I think it's going forward, right? Because
Of course, yeah.
two regulators were like, hey, yeah, I think Microsoft has been inking these 10-year deals with various weird platforms around the world. And I think it's most likely gonna go forward. And I think that's why, not to mention Microsoft and the Chat GPT stuff. I can imagine Chat GPT is gonna come to the Xbox and you get to control your Xbox with your
No, but
virtual assistant.
that'd be great if I don't have to pay one, subscription for Game Pass and one for BattleNet. Have everything into one.
Do you pay a subscription for BattleNet?
Very recently, I went back to WoW. Yeah, because of some friends who they were pushing me to get Dragonflight, so I went back to WoW, and it's really fun. It's nostalgic, and the stories have always been good. Just hurt your eyes because, of course, it's not FF14, right? But it's always fun, just very repetitive. And at some point, I know I'm gonna get bored of it, so I'm gonna play like 2-3 months just to clean out some stories, and I'm gonna stop. But yeah, it's always fun to come back to it.
Interesting. Okay, Adam, let's move on to your second story, or your first story.
My first story? All right, so my first story is... Oh, that's the wrong one. Sorry. Why is this not working? Darn. Every single time. Hang on. That's why. There we go. Okay, there's my first story. So PlayStation... there's been rumors about going around about a PlayStation Portable 3 or PSP 3 or PlayStation Vita 2. It turns out that's not anything remotely close to what's going to be happening, at least according to these rumors. So as Korean, posted on, he even posted about it on Twitter. I responded. Korean was kind of surprised by my response because I was like, "No, Sony, please don't do this." And he's like, "I thought you loved the Vita." And I'm like, "Yeah, but PlayStation just has the worst track record with handhelds. They just try to do things that they just don't read the room, basically." And so Vita was fantastic, but it was just way too pricey for the general populace. Most people thought it was way too expensive. The cards were, way too expensive, that sort of thing. So here we have the PlayStation Q-Lite is what they're calling it. And what it is it's a handheld PlayStation peripheral. So according to the patent, basically what it would be is it's a DualSense controller, the DS5 for the PlayStation 5, with a built-in screen, but it can only play games through remote play. So you can't use it without a PS5. So yeah, basically, it's like a Switch, but it needs to be done through remote play. It doesn't have any of its own native games. And the thing about that is I can do that right now using my phone. So there is a remote play app on Android and probably iOS, I'm sure. You can just put that on. I was doing it the other day. You can even there's little clips that you can clip this to a DualSense, and then you can just use the regular DualSense controller if you want haptic feedback. If you don't care, you can get any of those peripheral things that you can like clip it on, like the backbone or anything like that. I use a Samsung Glap Play. It works perfectly fine, works really well. So, yeah, I have no idea who thought that this was a good idea because basically you're just saying, I want to take functionality that people already have in their pocket and create a dedicated device purely for that functionality and charge money for it. It's just a really weird choice.
They must have hired the guy who did the Wii U one, the Wii U pad.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, so it's a really bizarre choice. I have no idea why they went with this. But I don't see it selling well at all.
I don't understand it as well. Like I think back to, I don't know if you guys remember the Steam Link, like maybe 7, 8 years ago when Steam was getting into their own boxes. I remember I got one here in Taiwan. I think that time I plugged it into my TV. I'm like, cool. And then I'm like, this is kind of irritating. I have to go to my PC, launch the game, come back to where the Steam Link is, then give it a try. I remember I turned it on once and I never did it again. It to me, like the idea of remote play, I mean, even like when Steam did remote play app on there, like your iPad or your cell phone, like just PlayStation does, to me that's kind of irritating, right? It's like adding more steps. And like while I do enjoy bed gaming or couch gaming, I don't want to do the extra step. Just want to turn on my device like I do with a Switch, and just play. I don't want to have to load in my own games. I don't want to have to, after I finish doing a remote play and it's 11 p.m. at night, wake up, go to my computer, which is in the room I am now, turn it off, then go back to my bed and fall asleep, which is totally going to wake me up. No, I think this is a ridiculous idea. I think in 2023, you should have, I mean, there's powerful hardware. We should just do that.
Yeah, I will say in terms of extra steps, it's not really an issue. Just because, like for instance, on my phone, all I have to do is open up the Remote Play app, and I do have to sync them up the first time. But after that, I just open up the Remote Play app, and it will automatically contact my PlayStation. It'll wake up my PlayStation. It does have to be in sleep mode. You can't turn it off. But as long as it's in sleep mode, it'll automatically wake it up and everything. I don't need to go over there and do anything, and I can just put it back into sleep mode from my phone. So in that sense, it's not really extra steps. But yeah, it just seems like a really odd thing. Like you're not going to be playing this on the bus on spotty Wi-Fi. So where's, it just seems incredibly niche. Like, you know, my wife's on TV. I want to play a game and I'm sitting on the sofa. Okay, I can play my game on this handheld device. But like I said, I can already do that using my phone. So I don't really see the benefit of having an extra dedicated peripheral for this.
I'm talking about, very big hardware portable. Do you know how the Steam Deck is doing? I haven't heard about it in a while.
Really well, apparently.
Really
Good
well?
sales. Yeah.
Okay, good for them.
So I mean, that's why there's supposedly a Steam Deck 2 coming out this year. So that's going to be cool. But it's interesting about PlayStation as well, because I was reading like memory manufacturers where Adam and I live in Taiwan. They're like, oh my God, there's a 40% drop in demand. And this makes me think that companies like Steam, like Sony are like, okay, people are not buying hardware anymore. Or people don't want to spend money on this stuff. So we should not produce this high-level PlayStation Switch-like device. That's why they went with the Steam. Like Logitech has their own little streaming device as well. And I mean, the Switch streams games like in Taiwan, right? If you want to play Assassin's Creed Odyssey, right? You play it streaming from PlayStation, I would say Nintendo Japan, and it streams Assassin's Creed Odyssey to your Switch here in Taiwan, right? Because Assassin's Creed Odyssey does not run on the Switch because it is a really nice, good-looking game. So I don't know. I don't think the future of streaming games is not quite there. I think Microsoft is going to do it for sure. I don't think anyone else is going to be able to do it, especially with the lack of server infrastructure.
Maybe Amazon, but
I think Amazon, given like their job cuts and second round of job cuts and the death of the Alexa division, they're not going to be. No one's going to be throwing any money in, given current global
Mm.
news. Only Microsoft's going to be banking in that ChatGPT money. Okay, let's move on to my first story, which is the Starfield story. You can queue up the Starfield trailer, Adam. So this is the new, I think this was the date trailer that I found for Adam, and thank him for queuing this up as usual. So basically, for this, guys, I'll just read a headline. You guys tell me know what you think. This is Kotaku's article from, I would guess, yesterday or 2 days ago. Basically summarize everything they know. And you guys can let me know what you think. We'll go Antoine, Adam, myself. So the first thing is Starfield features more than 1,000 worlds. Any initial reaction to that, Antoine?
Procedural, No Man's Sky. Nothing impressive until you actually see what it's like. 1,000 empty world is useless. It's the saying, right? A corridor game, very well made, will always beat a badly made open world.
Ooh, I like that.
Let me see your 1,000 world. Let me see his life. Is each world interesting, or is just say, yeah, we have a very big map. Yeah, super. It's full of emptiness, but yeah. So yeah, wait and see on that point. That doesn't impress me.
Adam?
No, I'm with Antoine on this. I think they went probably way too big, and a lot of it's going to be procedural. There's probably going to be 5, 6 worlds that are actually really interesting with a lot of stuff going on, and then a lot of just worlds that are not that different from, say, current Mars or the Moon, where it's just basically flat, rocky terrain, and there's not much to do there. There's maybe some mining that you can do for some resource management, but largely it's just there for resource management. So I think they probably went a little bit overboard with the 1,000.
Okay, cool. Let's move on to the second, because you guys covered everything. I have nothing to add to that. Second point, this time let's go Adam first. Starfield features survival elements, but don't expect anything too scary.
I saw that. I think I would have liked options. I would have liked it if they had like a survival mode versus a regular mode, like what they did with Fallout 4. I do understand why when reading the article, I understand why they went with some of those things. Like, for instance, they were saying we don't want to have fuel concerns where you've landed on a planet and now you're out of fuel and you can't leave the planet and you're just kind of sitting around being like, okay, maybe I can order somebody to drop some off, but I'm just going to sit here in the game and wait until, it arrives. So I understand some quality of life, things like that. But I'm sure it'll still be interesting. That might have some like oxygen requirements or maybe certain fuel requirements, similar to No Man's Sky. In No Man's Sky, since you can go around, collect fuel everywhere. Every planet's going to have some sort of resource you can use for fuel. But it looks like StarCraft is not going so much in that direction where, it's so fantastic that you can just find this everywhere. So I think it's probably a good choice, but I would have liked, and there might still be options to make it more realistic or more manageable.
Mods.
Yeah, no, definitely mods will definitely take care of that. That's true.
Antoine, what do you think?
I think they really want to distance themselves from Star Citizen, where in the latest patch, it's a high-end simulation where if you forget your helmet in the base when you take your starship to go to explore a moon and realize, oh no, I forgot my helmet, then it's a simulation. You have to go back to the base, light years away, pick up your helmet and come back. Here, they are really here for entertainment, and it's not an insult, but for more casual players, right? So they're gonna limit the survival to the strict minimum. I'm not even sure it's gonna be some hunger or thirst or stuff like this, because that's what you think when you think survival. You have to manage your character's needs for food, thirst, sleepiness, drowsiness, oxygen, all of these. I don't know what's going to be included, but they're going to make it super light so that, every 2 minutes you don't have to, refill your oxygen tank, as Adam said. So, yeah.
All right. Next is You can adjust character traits without re-rolling a new one. I think I don't understand what this is. So Anton, maybe you want to explain this?
Respect. In this kind of games, you have a lot of talent trees. Um, imagine Warcraft, right? You start with a druid. Your druid cannot have warrior specs, right? So you have to create a new character to have a warrior tree. Maybe here you go with, I don't know, scout tree. I don't know if it exists, but imagine that you're a scout and you say, scout is fun, it's agile and everything, but I want to be more tanky. So I remove all of the point I put in scout and I go to, I don't know, like robot, mecha, whatever. So that's what I think. Just basic respect that you have in. I don't know if you could respect in Skyrim or something like this.
You could, if I remember
You
correctly.
could.
Good.
So
I think you had to pay money, right, or something
Yeah, there
like
was
that.
there was a qualification for it.
okay.
Yeah.
So basically, yeah. Imagine Skyrim. You take all of your talent points back to zero and you reassign them wherever you want. I imagine that's what it would be.
Adam, any thoughts about that?
Yeah, no, what they said was, and this is kind of something that I ran into with Cyberpunk, is you when you create a character, you think you know how you're going to play, but that doesn't necessarily mean how you're going to play, right? When I was playing Cyberpunk, I'm thinking, I want to be a stealth build. I'm gonna, be using the swords and the knives and that sort of thing. And very quickly, I ended up hacking everything in the game. That was basically how I took care of every situation. So I ended up ultimately maxing out my hacking, and I put some points into body because so I could use the LMG, but I almost never used it. And then later on in the game, I was like, oh, I wish I could respec because I put these points into body that I don't really need. I do use SMGs quite a bit though, and I do use snipers, so I wish I could put more points into those, but I've already put them into these other things. And in Cyberpunk, they would allow you to respec your perks, but not your attributes. So, if you were like, okay, I want my guy to be more intelligent, sorry, you can't do that anymore. And it basically, so it made gameplay kind of odd where you're like, I'm spec'd for this because I thought early on that's what I wanted to do. But as I played, I discovered I enjoyed playing this way more. But now I can't spec for that. And here, what they were saying is, maybe when you start off the game, you think like, oh, I'm going to be this charismatic, space pirate, and with all this charm, and and all the people, all the ladies are gonna fall for me, and all the guys are gonna be wanting to join my crew, and that's how you think early on how you're gonna play. And then you realize I'm spending hours and hours and hours resource gathering, and I'm really enjoying crafting, and I don't do that much talking. I don't really need to spend these points in this. I need to spend points in that, but I've already spent them. And so they were saying that at certain points in the game, they're going to give you the opportunity to go back and say like, okay, I need to change some of these perks because the way I'm playing now is not matching the way I thought I was going to play when I started.
I agree. All right. Next point, I skipped a little bit way down the page, is Adam, you can start off first. Companions have their own perspectives and can speak for you, which I like that idea.
I thought this was amazing. I think this is a great idea. They were saying, if you go to a city or something, right, and you're negotiating with, say, a mob boss at a casino, and you know that you have a guy who has, mafia connections. Instead of trying to talk your way through, and hopefully you have a high enough intelligence or charisma stat. Instead, you can turn to your companion who has these connections, and you're like, hey, can you put in a good word for me? And then they'll talk to the guy for you and kind of get you in there. So I think that's really a really cool and innovative thing, that now your companions aren't just meat sacks to absorb bullets and shoot at for you. They actually have a functional purpose where if you take somebody into a certain city, depending on their reputation with people in that city, it'll change your reputation. So the people that you hang out with actually makes a difference in what you can and cannot do, or what you can and cannot get away with. I think that's really cool. I'm super excited for it.
What about you, Antoine?
Yeah, exactly the same. Usually, I just see them as an inventory bag. you know, like extra space. Or just for fun, you know, like you put them in front of a cliff and then, you know, you do your big dragon scream and throw them off the cliff and watch them fall and watch them try to come back to you. That's fun. Usually, you know, companions just for torture and mindless fun. So it's good that it's a bit more than that now.
Okay. And last one, I mean, there's a bunch more, so I would encourage any of you who are listening to the podcast or watching this on YouTube, please definitely give this a go and read the whole article. And thanks to Kotaku for this. But last one is the full game, or I should say the main quest, is expected to be 30 to 40 hours long. What do you think about that, Anton?
That's a regular good game. If it's just the main story, that means you have at least half more game with side quest. And if you have 1,000 worlds, of course, it's going to be 3 times if you want to visit everything. Like this player on Eve who visited all the world and took 10 years to do that. I wouldn't do that, of course. But yeah, no, 30 to 40 hours. I guess that's more than Horizon. That's definitely nearly twice the time for expected for Final Fantasy 16, which is supposed to be 15 to 20 hours. So that's fleshed up. You know, that's quite a lot. I imagine they're talking main storyline, not necessarily completionist. So that's good. That's big actually. Yeah. So 40 hours. That's pretty big.
Adam?
Yeah, no, I'm not a good person to ask on this. I mean, I'm the guy who's been playing Persona for 100 hours now, I think, or close to, and getting ready for my new Game Plus roundup. You know, I'm still not done, and when it's done, I'm like, oh no, you know, I missed the third semester. Okay, gonna have to play this entire thing again. So 30 hours to me sounds incredibly short, but I have a very biased opinion of time.
Just for the main story. Come on.
Yeah, just for the main story.
No
But
side
yeah,
quest.
like again, I never just beeline the main story. So for me, you know, I'm not going to get through the main story in 30 hours. You know, by the time I get to the end of the
No one
game with the main
does.
story, I'm already going to be 100. You know, because I've been distracted with so many things. So that to me has very little meaning. Um,
Yeah, no, I saw the number. I'm like, that seems kind of short because I remember when Skyrim came out, um, I didn't, I don't do, I'm not like an extra side quest person or collectible person. I just like to do the game and get it done, even back in those days. But I remember Skyrim was the game I'd spent the most time playing ever in my life until Warframe, of course, until like live service games. But
Yeah, but
um,
not on the main quest. I'm sure the main quest was
no, no,
30 to
no,
40
not.
hours and
I
spam
mean,
too.
at that time, I didn't differentiate between main quests and side quests. I thought they were just quests in my mind.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Like when I played, I'm like, okay, this is a quest. Quest equals must do, do it, and so that's what I did, and I did it. Yeah, it was an awesome game. So, but I think like especially for myself right now with the white hair and middle age gaminess, yeah, 30 to 40 hours is actually a little bit long. I'm worried I might not have the attention span for 30 to 40 hours anymore. But no, I mean, that's why I'll wait for Antoine and Adam to play it first. I'll probably not Adam, probably Antoine.
I don't know if my
I'm
PC
sorry.
can run it. We'll
I'm
see.
gonna be like him, huh? I'm gonna spend the 200 hours on side quest before doing the main one.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's fine. If Antoine's on 100 hours, I'm like, okay, yep, I'm gonna wait until
Mm-mm.
he's actually done, and then I can figure out how long is the main quest.
Throw a crafting
What?
system in, like shipbuilding, and yeah, I'm sorry. Like,
Oh,
you know,
finally.
it's just kind of like,
You're
okay, I'm
right.
doing the main quest, and then it's like, because that's part of the reason why for me this means very little, because I'll be like saying, even if I'm just like, say, I'm gonna, you know, this is my second or even third playthrough of a game, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna just beeline the main quest, I'm gonna ignore all side quests. That's where my 30 hours might be, because for me, you know, I'm doing the main quest, and I'm still technically doing the main quest, but I'm like, oh, but I really want this component. I don't have enough money. Okay, I'm gonna just real quickly duck off to this, you know, other place, this other planet real quick, and I'm just gonna pick up this resource because I know it's on that planet, and then I'm gonna use it to craft this thing. And then I get on that planet, and then I'm like, oh no, wait, I've never seen that rock before. What is that? And then I go exploring that, you know, and it's like, and then where did the main quest end and me wandering off begin? It's just a really blurry line. So for me, just saying like, oh yeah, it's 30 hours, I'm like, yeah, it's a really fuzzy 30 hours.
Nice. Okay, we have about 16 minutes on the clock, if my math is correct. So let's jump into Adam's second story and Antoine's second story, and hopefully we have time for my second story. So, Adam, tell us about your second story for today.
Okay, so my second story is that Persona 3 and Jet Set Radio looks like they're going to be getting a remake. So there was a video released on Twitter. Somebody said that they got this. If you watch it real close, there's a real short, I think it's about 5 seconds clip of what looks like Persona 3 in the Persona 5 engine. Then it cuts and it shows some Sonic Frontiers, and then it cuts and it shows some Jet Set Radio, basically a guy dancing. So a lot of people are arguing over this. Some people think that this is a leak. If you go to the Twitter handle that posted these, it doesn't exist anymore. That Twitter handle has been taken down. So I had a really hard time tracking down this video, actually, trying to find it, but I did find it. And yeah, so there have been rumors in the past of Persona 3 being remade. Now, Persona 3 Portable was recently re-released on modern consoles back in January. So you can play it on Xbox and PlayStation, but this is the PlayStation Portable from 2002. So, graphically it's not that amazing. But there were rumors of it getting remade. Jet Set Radio, the last game, came out in 2000, or maybe it didn't come out in 2002 for Persona. I don't remember when it came out, but Jet Set Radio, the last game, was in 2002. But there have been rumors of maybe a new entry in the franchise. So there have been rumors about this for a while, and then this shows up, and there's little Japanese words in the top right-hand corner. I don't remember exactly what the translation is, but it says something like, in development or something like, or game in development or something like that. So some people are getting really excited, saying like, oh, we're getting Persona 3 for modern consoles with modern graphics, using a lot of the maybe some of the new mechanics from Persona 5. Because, sometimes going back and playing an old game, stories are great, but sometimes we've evolved mechanically, and it's kind of hard to go back to some of the old mechanics. They're just not as smooth. So a lot of people are excited about it, but some people think that this might be, some people are calling it the church moment, which is a reference to when Nier Automata, there was this whole thing where somebody discovered a hidden door, and behind that door was this whole corridor and church and the references to Nier and that sort of thing. And so people were trying to replicate it, and they were like, oh my god, what is this secret, and all these sort of things. But it turns out, because people were saying like, it's impossible, this has to be real, because it's impossible to mod this game. Nobody can mod this game. There are some things wrong with it. Turns out that there actually had been a mod tool made, and somebody was doing this to basically show off the capabilities of this mod tool. So it ended up being fake. So some people think that this is fake, and somebody went through and they're like, I'm going to create this short clip of Persona 3 to, drum up a lot of talk, but in reality this is all just a hoax. So we're going to have to wait and see. So yeah, that's it.
Okay. Yeah, no, that'd be nice if there's a Persona 3 remake, because I haven't played it, and I heard that it's the most loved Persona by the community. So it's just, as you said, that's an old game, and I'm doing a lot of old games these days, but only if they are remade and practical to play.
Cool. I have absolutely nothing to add there, so we can move on to Antoine's story.
All right, I'll try to go fast. Basically, I'm just coming back on the gameplay trailer there was on Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, so Breath of the Wild 2, and they are showing off some new abilities that Link has with. He doesn't have his Sheikah tablet anymore. He has his gloves or arms that you can see, which power up some new abilities. So that's 4 of them which have been displayed. First one is recall, that you might see right now on the video. Recall means that you take an object and rewind time. So it's used, I believe, mostly for gameplay and dungeons. You can use it in combat, but that will really require some really fine tuning. So I really think it's more like for dungeon play. Second one is Fuse, and Fuse. So this, what you can see right now, is recall. So the rock fell, is going back up, and from this, Link will be able to jump to reach an island he couldn't before. Second one is Fuse. Fuse is the most important for me because it allows you to literally fuse any object in your inventory. You have a stick, there's a boulder in front of you, you can fuse them and have a big makeshift hammer, which improves the durability and the attack power of your tool. And this is coming from the kind of critics that in Breath of the Wild, your weapons were far too easy to break or too fast. Here, just grab whatever on the side, you use your fuse tool, and buff, you have a weapon right away. So that's really really cool. You can do this one will be really great if you have a lot of inventivity, right? If you have a good imagination, you can do a lot of things. For instance, there's one that I really love. You can use food as well. You can fuse. There was some kind of spore mushroom that he put on his shield. The enemy shoots the shield, and the mushroom just explode in a big fog, which allows Link to sneak behind and sneak kills the monster. So plenty of combination here. I'm sure it's going to be quite fun. Third one is Ultra Hand that people talk a lot about. Ultra Hand allows you to pick some object, glue them together, and create your craft. You can literally create your boat, create your glider. In the trailer, you see lots of different cars or gliders or boats that Link is using, all using the Ultra Hand. There's a timer onto it, so I'm not sure if it unglue after or if it's just that you can't use your craft after a certain time and you need to let the energy respawn. Otherwise, sounds like a good idea. And last one is Ascend. Ascend is, I believe, only quality of life. You know that Breath of the Wild, you have big cliffs to climb. It's quite a lot. Here is equivalent to glitching through the wall. That's basically it. You have a wall over you. You take the elevator. You glitch through the wall. You swim through basically, and up you are over it. Here in Tears of the Kingdom, there's lots of sky islands. I don't know if you can ascend from the ground level to a sky island, but I've seen it done through mountains. You're in a cave, you use ascend, and you're on top of the mountain. So that's really, I think, quality of life here, and it's going to be very useful. So here it is for the 4 abilities that we've seen on this new Zelda. They all seem really cool, adapted to every situation. Some of them are very specific to one particular situation, but the fuse and the Ultra Hand, get your brain working. You can do lots of things there.
Antoine, do you want to tell us about the leaking story? Nintendo subpoenaed the Discord server?
I have no clue what is that. Sorry. You
All
go
right.
ahead.
I'll let Adam take over. Adam, go ahead.
So basically, what happened was somebody released some footage of the game, I believe, that was showing off some of the enemies and that sort of thing. And they released this video on Discord, and then that's been passed around. So basically, Nintendo said, "Hey, Discord, you need to tell us who this user is. You need to give us this user's information because this person needs to be punished for what they have done." And so yeah, they've subpoenaed Discord to release their information. Now Discord has already, I believe, taken down the original post. They've also, I think, banned the person who did it, but they have not completely closed down the Discord server that this was on. So it has been passed around a bit. They might have shut it down by now, but yeah, Nintendo is very protective of their IPs, and they are not playing around with this. So if you ever get early access footage to a Nintendo property, maybe don't share it.
What's your take on that, Antoine? Do you think Nintendo was a bit aggressive? And what do you think about
There
leakers in
are,
general?
I am finding that there's a lot of leakage in the US recently. Anyway, that's not the point. But yeah, in terms of Nintendo being aggressively protective of their IP, yes, they have been since. Remember the Philips CD with the three, like the trilogy of shame of the three Zeldas on the Philips CDI? They don't want a repeat of this. Or the cartoons of Zelda when we were kids, they don't want a repeat of this. Now, every IPs is extremely, there's, I don't know how you say that in English, cahier des charges. There's a set of rules, and you don't go over the rules. Like Illumination, the guys who did the Minions, they did the Mario movie that I went to see with the kids. And you can see that they had no say in how the movie was made. It's you had the script by Nintendo, Mario do this, and then that happened, and then that happened. Can we add? No, 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 no. You do what I say that you do, and that's it. Otherwise, we go see someone else. And that's it. And basically, the whole Mario is a good movie, right? But it's a giant advertisement. And clearly not something that Illumination would have made if they didn't have someone looking. I'm sure that the guys were, like coding or creating the movie with a Nintendo guy in their back door. Okay, that can go. That no. I'm sure of that. Definitely.
Okay. Adam, what do you think about leakers and leakage and all that sort of stuff? For me, my take is I think it's free publicity. I don't get why game companies are so aggressive about it. I think it's so many people saw some early video. How is that going to damage your game or damage the release or that sort of stuff?
I mean, in the past, that's definitely damaged games, as we saw with Halo Infinite, with the was it Brute Craig and Forspoken, obviously before it came out, was being pretty badly torn apart on some of the, you know, I mean, those weren't leaks necessarily, but sometimes things aren't necessarily ready, and they come out in an unfinished state, and people take that and just run with it. So I think in this case, I do think Nintendo is overreacting. It is free publicity. The game is looking great, and in an odd way, they're having their cake and eating it too, because they get to subpoena this guy and say, "Hey, nobody touch our IP." But at the same time, by having such an extreme reaction, that's going to have the Streisand effect, and that's going to just draw more attention to it and have more people seek that video out now because they've heard about it only because it made the news. So they're getting that, but at the same time, I think it kind of does make sense because in this particular case, I think that video leak benefits Nintendo, but there might be situations where it could be detrimental. For instance, if you're really, if there's footage of maybe a new mechanic or a spoiler for the story or something like that that you don't want getting out, but if you've let it slide in the past, it's going to be a lot harder to fight that in the future. So I think it's one of those things where like, okay, yeah, we're benefiting it from it this time, but we should probably play it safe because you never know, and it's a lot harder to backtrack than it is to be proactive about it up front. So I think from a business standpoint, Nintendo's making the right move, but I do think it is extreme in this particular case.
Cool. Okay, and I guess we'll do my second story very quickly. My second story is for those of you who are still running SSDs or even regular 3.5-inch hard drives, right? Samsung's really good 990 Pro SSDs, but these are M2 SSDs, so they're like literally the size of these two pens put together, right? They're really, really tiny. That's probably what's inside the PlayStation 5. I don't remember if the PlayStation 5 has a regular size SSD or an M2. But I recently got an M2 maybe last year or 2 years ago. I can't remember. Really, really good space saving. They are like much smaller than regular SSDs, and they run faster. Like I feel my M2 is faster than my regular SSD, though like I mean, some people might not notice the difference, right? But yeah. So anyway, this is like a 1 terabyte, so that's good enough for at least one installation of a really big AAA game, right? 200, 300 gigabytes. This will set you up, right? Good for Windows 11, whatever you're running it on, even if you're building up your own Hackintosh. Good deal. It's currently $99, right, on Amazon. So again, if you are in a country where Amazon does ship to you, and there are a lot of those countries you might not even think they do. So again, like in Taiwan or if you're in South Africa or pretty much a lot of the countries in the world, you can get this on sale right now, and you can bump up your like literally in 2023. Nobody should be using those thick 3.5-inch hard drives anymore. These are cheap, affordable, much faster. This does bring up a point I wanted to ask with Adam, though, is like, what happens when your PlayStation SSD dies?
You would lose everything. But actually, in my PlayStation recently, I installed the Samsung 980 Pro. So I have a secondary drive in my PlayStation right now. I posted some pictures up on Twitter. I was
I
really
remember.
worried about opening it up, but it was actually pretty easy. So yeah, but mine's a 980 Pro, and it's 2 terabytes. So
So you
it's
could replace your SSD, right, but on your own, like the main SSD, if you had to.
not the main one, but that was the thing, is like in the PlayStation 4, I ended up getting a hybrid drive so I could expand my PlayStation 4 to 4 terabytes. But in the PlayStation 5, they basically saw that, okay, a lot of people are upgrading because, it's harder to get these drives. And so they actually put a slot in, an expansion slot in the PlayStation 5. So at any time, you can just pop a new SSD in there. So, yeah.
No, no, because I'm just worried. Like one of the things with SSDs, I remember when they first started coming out, is because SSDs have that much higher read and write speed than your typical 3.5-inch hard drives. They die faster. So it makes me wonder, like, are you going to have to buy an entire new PlayStation when your SSD dies? And it will, just like mine's will. Just like everybody who has an SSD knows your SSD will die in the future. And it does have a shorter lifespan. So, like, yeah, what do you do then?
There's an expansion slot. I guess you would just switch everything over to your expansion slot and just not use the built-in one.
So you'd have to like clone the hard drive, or there's like some cloning tool in your PlayStation 5 somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know about the OS or anything like that and how that's handled, but yeah, basically when I go into my PlayStation right now, I have my primary drive, and then if I want, what I can do is I can either the set the second drive as my primary drive, so everything I install from then on is saved to that, or I can just say, okay, move this from this drive to the other drive, and it'll move everything over for me. So I guess if it was reaching its end of its lifespan, yeah, you could just move everything over into your second drive and then just run it off of that. The OS itself, I'm not quite sure how that would work, but for all your games and saves and all that, yeah, you can just put them on the second drive.
Got it. Cool. All right, guys, we are almost at time. Any final words before we move into next week's show?
None from me. I think we covered basically everything.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Oh, we are literally at time. Very good. Then hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Stay tuned on YouTube and other places. Don't forget to watch Adam continue to play Persona 5. Then we will see you guys next week.
Yeah, see you later.
Good evening.